a foggy look at the Michigan deer opener, and then a Texas-sized treat coming up next on The Journal. Hi friends, and welcome. Today's adventures, well, they're kind of like a box of BBs in a blender. They're all over the place. We're going to start in Michigan with some of our young guns and what they did and didn't see on the firearms deer season opener, at least the first couple of days. And then we're going to join our man Dan Fox, Grandpa Dan to some, as he takes a couple of grandsons out on a holiday hunting trip at the Rio Bonito Ranch all the way down in southern Texas. But first, let's head out to the deer woods in Michigan with a couple of the youngsters and see what happened when they tried to put their tag on a buck. Hey, I'm your host, Kyle Randall. This is my Wilderness Journal, and we're out looking for deer right now. I said looking for deer because if you were in the blind on opening morning with Kyle Jr., that's what you were trying to do. You were trying to look through the fog and hopefully see some deer. Unfortunately, you just couldn't. He told me later he couldn't even see all the way across to where his spin cast feeder set, the spot where the trails converged as they worked through this area. Fortunately, by 8:30 it was starting to clear a little bit. He could see maybe 50, 60 yards over to the spot he was watching. Unfortunately, the deer, whatever was there, had already left. After sitting there a while longer, he decided, I'm going to try a little grunt and see can I pull something in. And he did. At least he told me he thought so. He heard something grunting back, but the fog was dropping back in so thick, he got his rifle up. He knew there was a deer over there somewhere. Unfortunately, he just couldn't see it. He could hear him moving. He actually heard that buck grunt back at him. He just couldn't see it. He did sit there the rest of the day hoping it would clear out. But by noon, it had gotten even worse. It was just too foggy. In fact, Kyle Jr. later told me the only reason he knew there were some deer out in front of him was occasionally his trail camera would go off and the flash could be seen in the fog. Unfortunately, not what was tripping it. We did have other kids out though. Young Tommy Dewey was up with his dad in Harrison, and where they were sitting it was a little less foggy, so we had a little more hope he could actually at least see the ground. An hour after sunup, Tommy could in fact see the ground, and on the ground he could see a doe all by herself, and occasionally she'd stand and stare back into the brush. Tom Sr. kept telling him, keep an eye on her. She's probably looking at other deer and they might come out and join her. But unfortunately, none did. At least not yet. A little while later they did see another deer, and it looked like a buck. A spiked buck, or maybe a forked horn, was working his way down through the fog. He was way out near the end of the shooting lane, much too far for Tommy to try a shot. But hey, at least they were seeing stuff. And by that afternoon, the fog had actually cleared and they were seeing even more deer. A button buck, followed by another doe and fawn, were slowly working their way out into the food plot, out in front of Tommy. The fog was finally gone. He could see him clear in the sunshine, and Tom kept saying, keep an eye on him. You never know when a buck is going to walk out following a doe this time of year. Tommy kept watching, and from time to time that button buck or one of the does would turn and stare off into the trees. They had worked their way well out into the food plot, but they kept staring back and over from the direction they'd come. And then finally, just as the first group of deer started working its way up the food plot closer to Tommy, he saw there were more deer. More deer coming in the same direction. with a doe and two fawns in front of them and another mature doe and a fawn working their way in, I'm sure Tommy must have been thinking, with this many girls, there's gotta be a boy following them somewhere. The good news, the fog was gone and they were seeing deer. And on top of that, the deer were actually coming closer. The bad news was there weren't any bucks, at least not yet. And then the news got worse because something spooked these deer. And in the blink of an eye, they were all gone. That is all except for one. There was one young doe standing in Tommy's shooting lane out to the north. He could see her plainly just standing there looking back into the trees. She'd nose around searching for acorns or something, but every once in a while she'd stop and just stare back into the brush where it was much too thick for Tommy to see. Tom Sr. kept telling him, keep watching. There's gotta be something moving in there that's getting her attention. And after a few minutes, a button buck and a doe walked out to join that doe fawn. Now Tommy had 3 deer back out in a shooting lane, but unfortunately there were still no shooters. He kept watching and watching until finally even those deer worked their way off. And as the last one worked its way off down the shooting lane headed for bed, Tommy must have figured this stress is just too much. If those deer can go take a nap, well, so can I.
How are you doing?
Tommy had at least seen some deer. Not the deer, but at least some. In fact, they saw enough that Tom Sr. made an executive decision. He decided to pull Tommy out of school a little early the next day. Maybe with a little clearer conditions, he'd finally get his chance.
Day 2. Got out of school early. We're gonna try it again, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay, seen a lot of deer yesterday, just not the one you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Well, Tommy figured he was ready for a siesta. And on this day, well, that was a problem.
Be real quiet, get up. There's a buck, get up. Real quiet. What? There's a buck, get up, real quiet.
Just after Tommy laid down to take a snoozer, a forked horn buck came walking right up his shooting lane and then turned and walked right across in front of his stand. Unfortunately, by the time Tommy got up and got the gun on him, he was already in the brush on the other side.
Can you get that one in the scope? Okay. Now just wait for him to come back out. We gotta make sure it's the right one with the horns.
I can't get on.
You can't. It's not the right one. Let him go. Let that one go. All right. Now, just hold.
And even though some deer did come back out in the shooting lane, that buck never did give Tommy another chance. We've all done it. We've all fallen asleep in our deer stand. Unfortunately for Tommy Jr., not only was somebody around to catch him doing it on video, he slept through the only chance he got this year to bag a buck. Still, it is what it is. And we weren't done. I was still trying to video my grandson Ian down in Ravenna, Michigan. The opener down there was every bit as foggy and tough, but we were seeing at least a little bit. Ian sat looking out at a scene that was more opening of a B-grade horror film than it was opening day at deer season. If something moved, and it was close, you might see it. But if something was more than 30 yards out, there was no telling what it might be. We did hear some turkeys fairly close by, still on the roost, but we couldn't see them either. It was about a half hour later Ian whispered he could hear something walking through the water. I voice grunted real soft, and something grunted back. There was a deer out there somewhere. Now all we had to do was find it.
Did you heard one?
And then, for just an instant, we could make out a small buck ghosting through the trees.
That's a legal buck, but he's kind of small.
Ian decided this wasn't a shooter, but to tell you the truth, I'm not really sure he could have shot had he wanted to.
Kinda too small. Yeah. Little forked horn, kind of a bumpy spike.
And then, just as we were talking about that little guy, Ian heard something else.
There's 3.
2 fawns, followed by a mature doe, were working their way back in the opposite direction that little spike had taken.
Just keep your gun out there and be still. Does that look like a doe and 2 fawns? Is that what you saw? So we need to drag a buck in here, right there. Maybe there'd be a buck coming along behind him. Just keep your eyes open where they came from.
Those deer floated past us like a boat out on a dark lake. You could sort of see them, and then you couldn't. They were just gone. But we weren't finished. I kept hoping, it's going to clear up a little bit, and sooner or later, if we stick it out, we're going to get our chance.
There's a doe. It's a good sized doe, though. There's a couple of them. Doe and fawn. Boy, in this fog, they just sort of materialize, don't they? You look and there's nothing. You look again and there's a critter. There's a third one. Well, I think it's that same group coming back.
Ian kept waiting for a buck to follow along after that doe and fawns. Unfortunately, none ever did. I thought for sure a buck would be following those does and fawns, but if one was, well, we couldn't see it. The truth was the fog had moved back in so thick, if Bigfoot had walked by at 50 yards, we wouldn't have noticed.
I keep thinking we're going to see a Sasquatch. Looks squatchy, don't it?
I started teasing Ian about seeing a Sasquatch out here. Anything I could think of really to keep his mind in the game, to keep him looking. When you're not seeing anything and you can't see very far on top of that, it's really hard to pay attention. And unfortunately, even though he was paying attention, all we heard for the next 2 hours was a couple of turkeys.
That doesn't sound like deer. Sounds like turkeys. What do you want? Deer. Figures.
And in the end, we didn't even see them. We sat the rest of that day and never saw another deer, or Sasquatch for that matter. The truth was the opener in Michigan, at least for us, was really slow. But I do want to thank Ian and Tommy Dewey and Kyle Jr. for going out and trying. That's the only way you're ever successful in the deer woods. You have to show up. Now let's shift gears. Let's head down south to the Rio Bonito Ranch, where our man Dan is going to take a couple of his grandsons out and try to get them a little early Christmas present. One of the very greatest things about taking someone to Texas is you never know what you're going to see show up. This is purely open range, but it's 25 square miles of it. They've got feeders and stands all over the place. And Dan knew that if he got the boys out there, they might see literally anything. One of the great things about hunting in this part of Texas is there's always something shows up to keep you entertained. It may not be the game you're looking for, and it may not always work out when it does show up.
I think you shot right over him.
But at least something's going to show. If you wait it out, stick it out, something's going to show up. And in fact, that's exactly what Grandpa was telling grandson Miles Hook, just as something did.
Okay, Miles, you ready?
squeeze real slow. Okay, squeeze real slow right on the shoulder. Give it to him.
Oh, that scared me so much.
You can drop him right in his tracks. Oh. Good job, buddy. You got him. He dropped in his tracks. Great. Happy?
Yeah.
Yeah? Now you can hunt pigs and turkeys, huh? Good buck, Miles. Good job.
Congratulations, Miles. A great shot on a dandy buck. It's certainly the kind of Thanksgiving dreams I have. And speaking of dreams and Thanksgiving, it wasn't long after that Owen Hook, Miles's brother, was trying to line his sights up on a little walking ham, trying to make some Thanksgiving dinner of his own.
Hey, Owen, here come some pigs. Get the gun and get ready. Good take. There's a bunch of them there, aren't there?
Yeah.
Think you can sort one out?
Yep.
All right, well, you get one picked out. You let me know before you're gonna shoot, okay?
I see one.
You see one?
Yeah.
Good. Whew, good deal, babe. Good deal, kid. Wonderful. Boy, they sure took off, didn't they?
Yep.
You happy?
Oh, God.
You happy?
Yep.
Yeah. Piggy, huh?
Yep.
Good job.
Well, congratulations, Owen, as well. That was a dandy pig for Thanksgiving. And then, well, that just left one. There's the issue of the Christmas pig. A tradition, well, let's just say that when the kids get together and they get to go out and do something, if one gets to go, well, then the others complain until they get to. Early on one of his last mornings in camp, Dan went out looking for a Christmas pig.
Just got here and this pig showed up. All by himself.
There in the gathering light was a dandy boar. This would make an awesome Christmas pig. At less than 100 yards, all Dan needed now was for this pig to stand still for a few seconds. Just enough time to wrap his present. And then finally,
Thought I had a good shot on him. He rolled really good. But, so I guess I'll go up in the woods and see what I can find up in there. That's where he ran to. I think he's right up the hill. Sure looks like a hog laying up there in the brush. But I want to be careful going up there. He's much bigger than I thought he was.
and after a little bit of suspenseful tracking, Dan did indeed have his Christmas pig.
He's got some big old tusks on him. He's a lot bigger hog than I thought he was.
Now all he had to do was get this 200 plus pounds of Christmas dinner back down the hill and into the truck by himself. Yeah. And friends, now seems like a great time to remind you of something that Dan Fox actually told me. if you've never drug a big critter over the rocky, cactus-strewn ground down in Texas, my advice, take some help.
Well, there's a moral to this story. Either don't shoot a pig that big, or when you shoot it, make it stay where you shot it. Then you don't have so much work looking for them and dragging them out of the woods. Now I got to put it in the rack of the truck. No easy task. I wish I had Mr. Randall with me. I really didn't think the pig was that big when I shot it. But it's bigger than the one that Tina always teased me about, the teeny weeny Oscar Mayer weenie. So Tina, this one's for you.
Congratulations, Dan. That is a dandy Christmas pig. And yes, I'm sorry I wasn't there to help you lift it. I do want you to know, though, we truly appreciate you taking the time and making the effort to share your trip with us. And friends, be it near or far, Michigan, Texas, anywhere in between, the chance to go out and share the out of doors with your young people, well, that's something truly special. You ask any grandma, any grandpa, and they'll tell you, these days, these opportunities, they go by much too fast. So we truly hope we see you and some of yours out there enjoying it, and who knows? If we do, we might just stop, share that cup and a fire, maybe a couple of hunting stories, and if we don't see you out there, friends, well, then you can rest assured we'll wait right back here so we can share another adventure from our Wilderness Journal.